Gonna expose another crooked DA. Wrongful conviction, she wears a cape. She's a true life hero, one we should emulate. Always standing up from a very young age. She felt strong enough to defend the weak, the depraved. She's a fighter for justice her whole life long. She does the hard work and then she proves them wrong. Gonna prove them wrong. She's gonna prove them wrong. They'll never be coming so soon. Oh, now it won't be long. Oh, yes, we know it's not easy. Even when you got a track record like Queen Z, you gotta dot your I's and cross your T's. You only get one chance to bring them to their knees. You got Bullock and Burroughs, Billy Waddell, you got Devon Jackson too. Saunders and Bradford, Larry and Calvin, the Allen brothers too. You got Kevin Fox, Prentice Nash, Harry Hill and Danny Young. You got Cesar Munoz, the Ethereal Boys, Brian Ferguson. And the list goes on. I said the list will go on. They'll never be coming so soon. Cause she does the hard work and then she proves them wrong.
Hello? Travis, I have no idea what the heck the Mad Scotsman's on about. I don't know if you guys, I don't know how many of you know, but we already have a video where we were arguing and Mark Hodnott was Judge Will Fox, and it was kind of funny, but it was, hello everybody. But we were already arguing about this, and I was arguing that he was, so it was like we were already doing the whole lawyer thing. So now he's trying to, I don't know. It's funny to me though, but I got the discovery. Look, it's right here. I got the birth certificate right here. Right? Okay. And then I got transcripts of the confession. Whoops. Sorry. Right here. So. So he has to recognize the fact that he recognizes me as Crunch's counsel. Are you guys able to see me right now, or do you see like Stacy with the spinning wheel? Hey, Scooby. How's it going? Because we're on my other channel, I'm having I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I prefer good beer. And I think Dos Equis is pretty good beer, actually. Okay, good. Because all I see is a buffering image, so. So, I was actually just over listening to Tracy Struncy. Thought that was interesting. She was talking about the motion for quick DNA testing, and she was basically, of the opinion that they might be able to, under the second part of it, in the fact that it could have become, like culpable evidence in the future. So she's saying possibly in that sense it could be found to be valid or whatever. But the statute may not have been broken. But the fact is the bones are, yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch it all happen anyways, play out. There's supposed to be Christmas shopping. Ladies is well, the lady's enjoying Christmas time. You know, it's Christmas time is just as much about cookies and enjoying yourself and reflecting and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just the hat. Somebody gave it to me and I just wear it sometimes. So we got here. So Travis, who the heck is Betty Swallow? Oh, Betty, I get it. Yeah, he's a piece of work, that Mr. Capaldi. You know, that's why we now have the evidence, though. So anyways, I don't know. Mainly wanted to maybe try and test a few things out here on Hangouts. And see how they work. I think I'm going to try and play a YouTube video and see if you guys are able to hear it and how well that goes. I think that testing sounds very promising. I don't think the legal dealings, but I can say the more I learn, the more the system needs reform. Absolutely. Merry Christmas to you guys too. You want to come in the hangout, Scoobs, and talk about the bones? Them bones? Or do you still have to finish up your Christmas shopping? It's hard to use Hangouts if you're not plugged into power, by the way. It'll drain your phone pretty quick. I know I'm busy beaver today, huh? I've been having fun today, going back and forth with Paul. That's for me. That's been a whole pressure release valve thing today, where I was just having fun going back and forth about Captain Crunch with Paul. So I don't know. That was me having some fun, and so it was kind of fun. And I'm sure that in the morning there's going to be something back from him in the morning. I was going to switch to wine. I don't know how many people out there want to join the hangout and talk about, I don't know, whatever, the motion for quick DNA testing, Colburn's lawsuit. Heck, I might even start talking to you guys about the Scott Davis case. You know, who knows? We could even talk about the staircase, the owl theory. Come on. I know some of you out there love and hate the owl theory, right? We can get some good conversation. There's really no form to this tonight. I'm planning to be trying a couple things out with Hangouts and you know, see how it goes basically. I don't know. So if you guys want to join here, here, Scoobs, if you really want to join, hold on. Marissa, you can join if you want. There you go, Scooby. Click that link and you should be able to get in. Now, this is going to be like a video call, just so you understand. Meanwhile, I'm going to try and see if I can make something else happen here. Hey, what's up, Marissa?
Hey,
how's it going?
Is my mic working?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I had it on the right mic.
Yeah, it's working. So I hear you. So I'm going to try something here. Hey, everybody, if you can hear that, I want to see if the audio, if you guys, number one, can hear it, and number two, if it becomes echoey.
Can't hear it.
You can't?
I can't, no.
All right. I'll play it for just a little bit longer. Come on. There you go. She's talking about Mr. Capaldi, by the way, the Mad Scotsman. That's why he comes up with these. That's why he comes up with these crazy arguments, because he's staying up way too late. And you know. All right, so let me see what that sounded like for everybody. Were you able to? No, Scooby, you have to go to that link. Maybe I need to add you here as well. Name unavailable. So how are you, Marissa?
Tired, I haven't slept yet.
I know, you keep telling me that. It's got to be, let's see.
I got
say here,
PJs on, though.
There you go. At least you're thinking about sleep.
I'm in bed. I got PJs. I got a sleeping dog. It counts, right?
Yeah. So what happened when you clicked on the link, Marissa? How did you get here?
The window popped open and I clicked accept join, and I just, the way it always works.
Okay, well, it's not happening so easily for everybody else. Let's see. Takes us to the Hangouts app.
Hi, Andy.
All right, well, let's see. I want Scooby to be able to get in here, though.
Is Scooby on iOS?
Are you on iPhone, Scooby? Okay, I think maybe Scooby figured it out, but she's waiting a second. Okay. Let's see. Travis. I don't know why you're having trouble. You've been in before.
Might have to just close out any other, if he's in another Hangout, maybe that's hanging it up.
Oh, maybe if you're on another call and another hangout, dude. That's a good point. Could be. Anyways. So
Your
anyways,
monkeys look drunk.
they probably are.
They're just passed right out over there.
Yeah. Hey, it's all the eggnog. I love eggnog. I drink all the eggnog I had actually though. Bummer.
Gotta make more. Now you just have to get the rum, eh?
Well, I have the rum. I just need the eggnog.
Are you drinking tonight?
Just Dos Equis. I don't always
Sweet.
drink
That
beer.
means I can have mics.
Are you trying to get in here, Travis, or what?
I was taught to never drink alone.
I listen to George Thorogood. I drink alone with nobody
I grew up
else.
with George
There won't nobody hang out with me except for my dear old granddad.
Scooby has joined.
Okay.
Hello. Scooby doesn't have a default photo.
Oh.
Yeah. Scooby had a default photo on the other hangout, though.
Oh, you know what?
Now it just shows like a little picture. It looks like a little camera with a line through it, but it's good enough. But
Now we know it's you.
I always like to see Scooby. You know.
Oh, I thought I was
I thought you was Hello, Scooby.
She said she thought she was live on the camera.
Oh, maybe
like you guys are on the cam.
Maybe your phone's blocking or maybe it's not. Maybe you have to unlock your phone's camera for the app, possibly.
Okay.
For that, you'd have to go into the phone settings, but otherwise, your mic's working.
I'm on the computer. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Maybe your computer doesn't have a camera. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it has
If
a
your
camera.
camera at the top is red, it means it's off. Maybe try unclicking that and see.
Oh, she just dropped out. She's gone. I don't know what to say, Travis. You should be able to figure out how to get in here, dude. You've done it a few times. I don't know why exactly. I can post the link for you again if you want, but looks like Scooby and Marissa got in here somehow. So you're a pretty smart guy, being a lawyer. I figure you're gonna figure it out.
I can't believe I've been up now, like, what, 30 some odd hours? Jesus.
Yeah, I know. You keep staying up. It's not good for your health either. Bad for the heart.
I know. If I pass out, you can just hit the eject button.
Yeah. Hasta luego.
Like, okay, I think she's unconscious.
Try the link again. It's the same link. It ain't changing.
Travis, are you on your iPad, phone, or your computer?
Let me try this. All right. How about this one, Trav?
Learn to live half a life. You want me one time. Who do you think you are? Clutching your dark heart, tearing us apart. You're gonna get your cold. The ice inside your soul. Don't come back for me. Don't come back at all. Who do you think you are? Sorry, you can hear my notifications. It's Scooby though, so it's a good notification. Okay, and now Travis is in as well.
Oh, there he is.
There
Can anyone see me?
No, still same as before. It's like a little camera with a line through it.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yeah,
can
loud
hear
and
you.
clear.
Yep.
I don't know how, according, on my computer, it says the camera is unblocked. I'm trying to, here
Oh,
I,
there you
there's
go.
my picture.
There's your profile
Yeah.
picture. There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is really spooky.
that is Scooby.
That's Scooby.
Someone's got their
But I'm trying to get us my camera on. I don't know why it's not working.
okay.
Turn camera.
You need to mute your
YouTube.
You need to mute your YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise it echoes. 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 Echoes.
Now I see Scooby's dog.
Yeah, that appeared a minute ago.
My computer did a weird glitch.
That's Scooby.
Camera, this page is access. It says this page is accessing your camera and microphone.
That's because it's
Continue.
accessing it.
So, but I don't see the camera working.
No, I don't know. Your camera wasn't working, that's for sure. Something, either your camera may have been working as far as the computer was concerned, but as far as Hangouts was concerned, it was incompatible. I don't know. But it was showing us a little camera with a line through it.
Yeah.
But hey, that's fine. We get to look at Scooby.
I guess so.
Well, you know.
But I'm just frustrated because now I'm going to want to figure out how to make it work. Well, here, maybe.
All of us.
Oh, there went Scooby again. So when are we doing AEDPA, Travis?
When do you want to do it?
I don't know. We could do it tomorrow, I guess, or I don't know. Can we do it on Christmas Eve? What do you got going on tomorrow?
The other half of my Christmas shopping.
Oh. Still got Christmas shopping, eh? Well, maybe when you're done with your Christmas shopping tomorrow, maybe then. I don't know. Do you have the PowerPoint all done?
No, haven't even started it. Maybe the 26th. Day after. Already have something planned.
Johnny, did you see today's trailer?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we're planning that. That's for the 26th, but we could do both. I'm home. I could do it. I could do 2 a day like that.
So if I turn my camera off, then my picture comes on.
Then your profile,
Yeah, if I turn my camera on, then nothing works.
Well, no, it all works still, but see, like if I do the same thing, if I turn my camera off, you'll see my profile picture. That's Tom Baker. Tom Baker from Doctor Who. So
yeah, but then your camera works.
But then when I turn my camera back on, it works. Yes.
Yeah, but my camera doesn't. Oh, video trouble. Disable HD.
There she goes.
And there she goes.
Oh, no.
I love it. See? All these technical difficulties got to get worked out. Let's see here. I spent $200 today.
On what?
On gifts.
Well, I guess I'll just talk and you'll have to look at Scooby.
Yeah, that's fine.
Does my sound okay?
Yeah, sounds fine.
Okay. But now I'm going to need to, although I'll probably continue to play with this because it's going to bug me.
Well, I think your camera's having some compatibility issue, I would imagine, but
I know, yeah, except this is a new computer. But although it says that it's allowing access to my camera, but there might be something in the settings I need to adjust or something.
Could be.
Who knows? But anyway, I'm here to talk for now. If I go out, it's just, but I'm going to continue to. So this is Marissa and Travis are here?
This is Marissa and Travis.
And
Marissa's up there in Canada.
Oh, great.
Travis is in Texas.
Okay.
And,
he's just a image also, so.
Yeah. He's being a big wuss.
Oh, yeah?
I think he's been crying from all the money he spent shopping today.
Oh. I spent a lot of money shopping too. But...
Yep. Christmas is a scam. No, I didn't just say that.
Well, it is. Well, and I go back and forth about the presents thing, but I do like to buy presents for people. But you do have to wonder if sometimes you end up just buying something for the sake of buying something, and that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I hate commercialized holidays. It's like, if you want to buy me something, not because the day says to.
And the stores are just crazy. I can only take so much.
Yeah, well, they are kind of crazy.
But I do kind of get into the whole Christmas thing. Luckily, you guys can't see me on camera because I would be playing like my Christmas music. I love the old Christmas movies like White Christmas and Holiday Inn and Bing Crosby and all the old music. And I just Miracle on 34th Street. I just get into all that and play the Christmas music all day and annoy some people, but I like all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I punish myself in the car. I just find classic holiday music. So we're going through Travis's house.
But I've been too busy working. I don't even have a Christmas tree or any of that stuff this year.
Oops. Merry Christmas. It doesn't have any lights on it though, but
or decorations.
Here, look, we can decorate it with the Brendan Dassey thingy. There we go.
One. You just need one light up to go with it.
Anyways.
Put a candle on it. See how that works.
Maybe if I go live like around noon on Christmas Day or something for an hour, I'll have it all lit up or something. Either that or I'll go to a tree lot and try to find a Charlie Brown one. Anyway.
Just go find a twig. Don't be lazy.
So what are you doing, Travis?
Just I let Henry go outside. I've turned on the back deck lights. And who else is going to be joining us
tonight? I don't know.
Yeah,
this is all just a thing. This is all just a whatever thing. Was intending to play with things on Hangouts, see how well they work. Trying to see if I can play a video. It's just I don't know, whatever kind of BS session. We can talk about the case. We can talk about whatever. It's no real
good.
You know.
T1 says hang Dr. Pepper cans on that tree.
So wear my special hat to talk about Captain Crunch.
Is it the USS Constitution or the Crunchistitution?
Constitution. Old Ironsides.
It should say Crunchistitution.
No, you gotta get into the history of the U.S. Navy before you can even. This is just the most tortured use of the court system I've ever seen in my life.
I demand that one of these two fools wears a freaking mop head thing to be for British court.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I love that comment, Travis. Travis, I loved the video that you and Eric made about the motion and the quick DNA testing. If there is like an awards, like the Oscars, which I'll never watch that for the MAM videos, that one should win one. That was great. And I have so much to say, but I'm so frustrated. My camera isn't working. So now the Google Help says I should shut off my computer and restart it. So I'm doing that now.
Okay.
So here I go. I'll be back.
We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Because even though I might scare you, and if any guilters are watching, they will I'll certainly give them fodder. I'm just frustrated that my camera's not working because
no worries.
We're
just having fun anyway.
I want to join in the party. I want to be here at the party. I want to be having a glass of wine, and I want you guys to meet. I want you guys to meet Scooby.
Oh, right on!
Yeah, all right.
I want to meet Scooby too.
Scooby's right here main detective.
Scooby's right here next to me. He's excited to come to the hangout.
Yeah, cool.
And now I'll show you how excited he is, and I'm disappointing him greatly. So let me just.
Hello, Scooby. I've known Scooby for a long time.
Scooby, the dog or the human?
Where are you?
They're pretty much the same.
Well, they said their spokesman, so-called, back in Scotland, says he's spoken to Betty Swallows, and they've hired Gasbender and
Liegert
and Tony the Tiger.
They were questioning Tony the Tiger. Yeah.
I said, well, I'll get a couple of guys that'll way out finesse them, much smarter, much more analytical, much more logical, can use inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning, unlike, that trio. So I got Shaggy and Scooby. They always get their man.
Yeah. That would be Dick Clark, wouldn't it? Anyway.
T1 says, if I'm ever on life support, try unplugging me and plugging me back in. See if that works.
It works for everything else, doesn't it?
Or how you're driving your car and it's working perfectly fine. You get back in and you're like, why don't you start? Where did this sound come from?
Come on.
See, what I was mainly trying to figure out is how I would play a video during Johnny, when I'm talking with Johnny. I wanted to be able to play a video. I wonder if I did something like this. Here. That was Skip Palahniuk. Did everybody hear that?
Nope.
Did everybody on YouTube hear that? What's up?
Adrian, send me the pic. I might be able to post it.
Which pic?
Adrian says, I wish I could take pics. My hat rocks. I don't know if she meant.
She sees us wearing our hats and now she wants to show hers.
Well, I don't know if she meant that she couldn't post a pic in the YouTube chat, or if it meant she can't take a photo with her phone right now.
Oh yes, I see. So, I showed you the interrogation of Crunch today. I sent it to you, Travis. So
yeah, I saw that.
So
and
that was the.
But I wasn't
sure.
Yeah, but I was a little lost because I saw the YouTube conversation between you and Angry Scotsman, and you were saying your client, Captain Crunch, but I'm sure you are aware, Captain Crunch has allegedly sued you in Sheboygan. So you can't represent somebody that sued you.
No,
So
that's just the dirty tricks of the Mad Scotsman. I have proof that
yeah.
I've already previously been representing him. In fact, the proof is he sent me Discovery. What more proof do I freaking need than he sent me Discovery at one point?
That's absolutely true. So Scooby and Shaggy are close to showing that this so-called Captain Crunch, who's filed a lawsuit, if he has filed a lawsuit, because the clerk doesn't know anything about it, he definitely a pretender.
Yeah,
we haven't seen the likes of a pretender like that since Bonnie Prince Charlie.
Hey, and gotta ask yourself, right? If he was getting interrogated and everything by these guys, and suddenly he's siding with them, and when he's filing in Madison, Wisconsin, he's for some reason sending a complete record of it to Mr. Capaldi, who I can prove has clearly represented the fact that Captain Crunch is not British in the past, so he has a dog in the fight. So I don't know if he's handed it off to a new lawyer, trying to act, I don't know what games he's trying to play over there. If he's trying to maybe get by on like the fact that it's international law. I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to do over there, but hopefully Judge Wilfox is going to step in here pretty soon and make some determinations.
She I don't know how have a great hat.
I gotta imagine awesome. A bunch of you still haven't seen the first time when we did Crunch Court, but it was pretty funny. Sorry.
It's okay. No, your point is well taken, and so assuming Elizabeth Swallows, if she really exists. One of the major tenets of professional responsibility is you can't contact a person that you know is represented by another attorney without that attorney's permission.
Yeah, there you go. See,
so he didn't send you any disengagement letter or termination letter or anything like that.
Nope.
No motion to withdraw.
Nope. Well, just the discovery. I got nothing else.
I'm writing down bar complaint to my to-do list.
Yeah, we'll get Capaldi disbarred. Get him thrown out of the annals of Scotland Yard.
Well, it's Elizabeth Swallows, he claims, is the person, the famous attorney.
Yes.
And it's not Madison. He chose the Kangaroo Court in Sheboygan.
Yeah, right.
For unknown reasons, but
Sukowitz or Sukowicz or
Angie.
Angie,
you're beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Oh, brother.
You should wait till you see this hat. I've got two hats for tonight. I've got the Navy hat, one of our earliest and most famous naval vessels. And I've also got me backup hat, which I think everyone's seen before. But...
Whoa.
So depending on what the topic is, I might be.
You might be changing hats.
Might be changing hats.
Oh, I always have to do that. Sometimes I have to be an HVAC guy. Sometimes I have to be a gardener. Sometimes I have to be a garage door guy. It sucks.
Which one sucks the most?
I don't know. Pool guy, honestly, because those jerks are very tight with their knowledge. It's very difficult to figure out how to troubleshoot a pool without having to call one of those guys out, and they know they got a they know they got the game kind of locked and rigged, so they charge an arm and a leg. But if you're smart enough, you can generally figure it out. But it takes a while because it's not obvious. So I don't have any sweaty balls, but
I do. I have tons.
I do have this, which was given to me this week, which I thought was pretty cool. But these are like kind of like a big deal kind of cupcakes. I don't know if you look at them. One's like red velvet. Obviously, you can see it's got the red sprinkles on it. The other one's like a little snowman right there. So anyway, so thought I'd show everybody those because I figured Travis was going to bust out his sweaty balls at some point. So. But those, I'm gonna wait till I'm gonna eat those afterward though. But those, I thought those were cool. I thought the one that looked like a snowman was kind of funny.
I got to sign out and in real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. See you in a minute.
All right. Must be a hell of a hat.
Hang on.
Do you have the boots to match?
Boots to match. Cowboy boots.
There you go.
Well, that's what I figured since you're in Texas.
They don't match. They don't match. What the hell is going on here? All right, come on. Trying to get to the screen of the video. Here we go. Couldn't join call.
I think Adrian's getting her makeup on so she can join us.
Cool.
Or I just said that and she's gonna be pissed off at me for saying it.
Well, maybe she didn't want me to post this photo then.
Hey, if she was gonna herself, then probably okay.
I hear voices.
He was just outside. He's fine.
She's not joining. Are you getting ready to roast the pig or something, or what?
He's getting the hat, the boots, the torch.
I guess. It's an ordeal. Let's see. Did anybody even answer me earlier if they heard that video I played? Let's see.
It's not my family. In your head, in your head.
Right.
They have to hear in your head. It's not me. It's not my fault.
So I want everybody to tell me if they can hear this. Everybody on the YouTube chat.
Where's
All right. So can anybody hear that?
No.
I know you can't hear it. You're in the Hangout though.
Well, no one else is answering, so someone's
Okay.
got.
Well, hopefully they'll say no at some point to answer the question I asked, right? I mean, hopefully. Or not.
Thanks, John.
Guess nobody's paying attention. 9 people, and they're all on their own little. No
I mean, we
audio.
could just sing
No
to the
audio.
little guy.
See, I don't understand why we're not getting the audio. That sucks. Ah, now he's got his Santa cap on.
Santa baby.
Marilyn.
I think I'm drinking faster than you.
I'm almost done with my second one. So
Since we started, though.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I started when this video started. I didn't start drinking before.
Oh,
So.
okay. Well, then I'm fine. I'm only halfway through one.
what you eating?
All right, so there it is. People are saying no, they couldn't hear it. So that's a bummer.
Hurry down the chimney.
Because I wanted to be able to put videos up on there and have people be able to hear it as well.
What you do is you just hold it on your phone and then you zoom it in real close.
I know, that's really lame though.
Maybe I should try the phone instead of the computer.
You could, but it's gonna, unless if you don't have a way to charge your phone, it's gonna drain it pretty quick.
Oh, I've got my phone plugged in.
Okay, then hang on.
I'm here at the charging station, but I'm very frustrated because the camera should be working.
Yeah. Is your phone on the Wi-Fi too? Because otherwise it'll burn through your data.
Oh yeah, no, it's on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
It's on Wi-Fi.
If you use your phone, you won't even need earbuds or anything. You should be able to just use your phone and put your phone on speaker. We'll tell you how to do that.
Okay. Do I just hold the phone up or just stick it up on something so it can?
Yeah, but you probably want to go ahead and get in first and
Or I have a tablet thing that might work.
Yeah, maybe that might.
Oh, where I need like my techie friends.
Or you need a teenager.
Well, usually my last computer, which died, the camera just worked automatically because I've done this kind of stuff before. Then my picture goes away. It's most bizarre.
Maybe it's, are you on like a mall's Wi-Fi or something?
What Wi-Fi?
Are you on a mall's Wi-Fi, like at a mall or something, or?
No, I'm at home.
Oh, you're at home. I thought you were shopping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, we didn't. We were shopping earlier. There's some stores that are open 24 hours tonight, Eric. We can shop all night. We got plenty of time for shopping. This is you are much more important priority than shopping.
Yeah, well, we're just having fun tonight. Let's see, am I the only sober one? No, Don. I might be a little bit buzzed here in a little while, but
good. You know what? I wish I had some Bailey's Irish cream. I love that at Christmas time.
Yeah. I was drinking eggnog last week and I was liking that.
I heard you say that. I love eggnog.
Yeah.
With a little brandy in it.
It had brandy, spiced rum, and and French vanilla. I do have this. I just need the eggnog. There you go.
Ooh, yeah, you're all set. I need to run. Oh, the liquor stores are closed here. You can only buy liquor until 9 in Wisconsin. So
really,
I'm out of luck. Yeah,
that's the drunkest state in the nation. I guess everybody just buys it. I guess everybody just makes sure they buys it before 9 now. I guess, huh?
Yeah. Oh, is there any rule like that in California, or can you?
We can buy it till 11.
Oh, yeah.
11's a cutoff.
Yeah, you got to get your liquor early here. But now, see, I was at Costco and they have these big jugs of Irish cream, and I was thinking I should get one, and I said no, because especially it kind of warms you up on these chilly Wisconsin nights. But I thought, because I like it so much, I thought, no, I might drink too much, and then who knows? I could get on the live chat and start making a fool of myself.
Possibly. Hey, hey, at least it's not a serious one.
Yeah, can't be any worse. Can't be any worse than the usual. Travis went out. Travis is coming in and out.
Travis's video keeps going in and out.
Travis was stuck in the closet trying to pull that hat out.
No, he got it. He had it. He had a Santa cap on. He was sitting there all in the.
Yeah, I thought he said he had a bigger one.
Holiday style there for a second. But.
Well, I went into my camera settings and I okayed it to access everything. So, well, I'm going to have to. I have a cousin who's a real tech head. I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
Consult him.
So we get it all straightened out for the day when we go on and talk about the bones.
Right. Yeah, that's why this is a good idea to do this now, because I wouldn't have thought there would be a problem.
Yeah. At least now you know how to connect. Now you got your technical difficulties with your camera.
Okay, where's the phone?
Oh, wait. Are you on your phone?
No, I'm just getting that hooked up.
Oh, okay.
I'll be multimedia here. I'm just going. I usually use the computer because it's it's got the nice big screen.
Right.
So far. Oh.
Dawn,
I do this through.
All right. Is Travis mad because we didn't notice his Santa cap?
Oh, Travis, are you still there? Oh, his mic is off.
Yeah.
Hi, Travis. I need to meet Travis. I don't think I formally met him. But seriously, Eric, I'll call you Eric for purposes of the video.
Yeah, right.
Because
lots of people do.
But I finished watching, unless I don't know if you utilize your real name here, but
no, I don't.
Okay, then I call you Eric. I finished watching the video with you and Travis, and seriously, it's excellent. You did such a great job of he did such a great job of going through, the document, which was wonderful. And of course, as I told you, I'm like way behind and hadn't read it, but I am very encouraged. But I didn't know that what I really like is that Dr. Richard Selden is not a professional court testifier. He's a real scientist.
Right. He was just doing this stuff in California.
Yeah, and he contacted him. And so he wasn't one of those, looking for, which I think kind of happened like with that blood, the age of the blood person.
Right.
That was a neat idea in theory, but I never had a lot of confidence about that because I think it was too experimental.
Yeah.
But this guy, oh my gosh, like Travis. Oh, there's Travis. Hi, Travis.
Oh, he lost a Santa cat.
Oh, I'm waving to him and he can't see me. Anyway, this is Scooby. So anyway, Scooby. We're talking about the wonderful video you guys did. But and yeah, I loved your comments about Selden. Oh my God, talk about educated. MIT, Harvard, although Harvard's, kind of gone down a little bit. But anyway, MIT. That's what it was. But I mean, anyway, obviously, yeah. The guy is smart. He's a physician, and so the testing, I wasn't really familiar with what it was, but obviously for the purposes here, the quick part doesn't matter, but the fact that it's very sensitive, which is what is really the issue that is needed.
Right.
So that. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to blow my mother off for the.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Man, oh man.
Not at Christmas time.
Anyway, no, I'll call her back. But anyway, what I didn't mean permanently, but I'm on a very important call. But no, he's got great and apparently, and I didn't realize that he said he's done this with bones that were burned to that level. So that's encouraging. So as far as the testing, are you going to bed, Marissa?
Yeah.
She's been up for 37 hours now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, no wonder.
I told them to eject me if I actually fall asleep.
She falls asleep. She falls asleep to the lullaby sounds of my golden orator.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Well, that's nice.
Hey, sometimes I play your videos to sleep and it gives you watch minutes.
Okay, so maybe there's some truth to what I said then.
So it's just the four of us here? What happened to all those other people that were...
People that are still, everybody's still on the live chat of the YouTube video.
Oh, okay. Oh, is this on YouTube also?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
okay. On both. Yes.
Oh, okay. But I'm just seeing it here.
We're not jealous. Hey, Adrian, can Travis post the picture of you in your hat? I know you said you don't have makeup. You don't want to distract everybody. So.
Nick, can you hear us?
She should just come in, and if she doesn't want to do video, then don't do video. She can just do the picture. There's no requirement you do video that I'm aware of.
She says you can share it, dude.
Nick, it's just you. Refresh.
Refresh, Nick.
What the hell was I going to do on my phone?
The other way to do that is click off live chats and then click it back on. Oh, here comes Marissa.
Has anybody
See, now I don't know how to get to my on the phone. I don't know how to get to this place. It's from the phone.
Click the link. What kind of phone do you have?
An iPhone?
Oh, he'll add you through email.
I did already. I sent you an email. Go into your email.
Me?
Yes, Scooby.
Okay, yeah. See, it's complicated because now I have to use Scooby.
Or you can go into YouTube. go to this. Go to my video. This video, my live video.
Oh, okay.
And then there'll be a link in the live chat you can click at the beginning.
See, this gets complicated because I have 2 accounts. You know, I've got mine and I've got Scooby's, and then sometimes I'm in.
The email address I used was Scooby the dog. So
yeah.
I remember that I just wanted to shut my light off with my phone.
Oh, I see. If she comes on, she'll be wearing her hat and be a distraction. Otherwise, yeah. Okay, so she's being all confident and cocky. I love it.
I never use my phone for any of this stuff, so I'm really.
So you guys show us the picture of Adrian. Sorry, Scooby, but
that's okay. Travis. Oh no, that's okay. I'm sorry. I'm just talking.
Go ahead.
I'm talking to myself.
No, you should see the photo. She's right.
Well, she's telling you to post it.
I got to send it to you so you can pull
it up.
You know
how to share stuff, but okay, fine, whatever.
Well, how do I? I'm on my phone, so I can't.
Oh, I don't know how to have that on the phone. Okay.
So I got to send it to you.
All right, send it to the one where I put the link earlier.
Yeah.
Or is it here? No, wait, I see it already. Hold on.
Did she send it to you?
I see it. I got it. Hold on.
It's a distraction. Don't put it up there.
I see that.
Tell Adrian she can come into the call and she doesn't have to do video, and then she won't be a distraction.
I'm eating chocolate. It's getting messy.
I have to go. I got to hit the stores tomorrow. They open at 7 a.m.
All right, guys, are you ready?
Who wear it better?
There's Adrian. Woohoo! Merry Christmas.
Oh, she did a different photo for you. I've got a little bit different hat.
Well, she looks great.
Yeah, she always looks good. What's the name of almost an attorney Facebook? What's her first name?
Why can't I hear Travis all of a sudden?
I don't know. He's muffled.
Are you putting your finger on the mic or something?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
What's the name of the person that has that private group? Almost a lawyer, almost
basically a lawyer.
Tracy?
Yes. I was kind of talking about her at the beginning a little bit.
Did you watch that?
I watched the first 40 minutes of it before this started. I was running around doing my shopping today too. So
yeah.
So actually, about 40 minutes of it though.
How late did it go?
It was when I was looking at it, it went a total of 1 hour and 27 minutes.
Okay.
That's when I said I've noticed you're on there. I was like, oh, you are on FB, you sneaky little devil. I replied to one of your comments.
Oh, okay. I didn't see you on there. I got cut off. I don't know if she cut me off or.
You got your finger on the mic again.
Your mic.
Okay. I don't know if she cut me off or if something happened with my Facebook. I don't know what happened.
Oh, I hope she didn't do that. She's a pretty nice person.
Yeah,
I had to be technical difficulties. I gotta believe that.
Well, it just said video ended, so it could have been, bandwidth.
Oh, maybe you just caught it towards the end then, maybe.
No, I started 5 minutes late, and I saw Allie in there, and
right, I saw Allie in there
talking about stuff, and she very impressive. She obviously reads everything really, really well, but I don't think she has a good understanding of the preservation scheme in Wisconsin.
Well, she lives in Wisconsin, so
she also said Buting's not a federal attorney. He's not an appellate attorney. He's not a post-conviction lawyer, and she's flat wrong about all three of those things. So,
right. It was, yeah. Well,
so
could be she means normally or something, but
yeah, but she didn't qualify it,
right?
And made it out that he does what the preservation statute means. And there's a Wisconsin Bar Review article. I'll send you and Allie and Marissa and Adrian, whoever else wants it. But everybody understands that statutory scheme to mean you can't get rid of anything that either comes back to the victim or could potentially be exculpatory.
Right.
And after I started to
and she said that about, in her, and she said, yeah, that's where this could, she said it's not for sure. It's if it's reasonable. She said whenever they use the word if it's reasonable, trust me, that means it's up to interpretation, and you never know which way that's going to go. Well, you do when it's Judge Sukowitz, but anyway.
Suck a witch.
Yeah. So, but
such a anyway.
I thought that was giant spider webs, and then I'm like, oh wait, that's Christmas lights.
Sorry,
well,
Travis.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but the other point was, my feeling on it, and I'm still absolutely convinced of this, is that the motion she filed 3 days before the deadline is contemplating 2 or 3 steps ahead. And one of the things she's done is to force the issue on, do you still have these bones or not?
Yeah.
And that motion, it's going to trigger that.
Right.
Because the motion to require testing, one of the requirements be that it's still in the possession of the state. And so they either have to come back and say, no, we don't agree, this was tested before. Well, they're not going to go back with that because it clearly hadn't been tested before. Got sent off to the FBI. The guy that wrote this article for the Wisconsin Bar was clear that this statute was written so that it anticipated improvements in DNA testing.
Right.
Which is exactly what happened here.
How could you not anticipate improvements? Really?
Well, their prior statute required it be the old system before amplification.
Right.
And then they changed it, and they changed it in 2001, and they got one of the best statutes there is. Says, preserve everything, and everybody's got to preserve it. The judge has to preserve it if it was admitted as an exhibit, so on and so forth. The lab at law enforcement. And so what they have to come back with is either the only thing they can really attack is, and it's also a reasonable thing. It talks about that, could, in essence, it says reasonably lead to a conclusion that's beneficial to the defendant. And Kathleen argued that by saying, well, it's obvious they know the importance. It's obvious they know what it could result in because they agreed to do microscopic testing. You and I went through that during the presentation,
right. Yes.
How she laid out how, it directly impacts Stephen's ability to prove his actual innocence. So, she's forcing them to, come back and say, yeah, we've got it, or we don't have it. And then if they don't have it, then she's going to hit them with another motion on destruction of evidence.
Right. Right.
But
how long do they actually have to keep evidence, Travis?
While you guys are on that thought, I'm going to remind you that you don't buy beer, you rent it. So I'll be right back.
All right. Well, assuming the evidence fits in the statute, they have to keep it as long as any defendant or co-defendants in prison. So
does that include all the bones?
Well, if they fit in the statute. So
because I've seen the Wisconsin statute and it kind of seems to say yes, and then it kind of seems to say no because it says biological material.
Biological material of the victim, and then subparagraph, that's 2, and then subparagraph 3 says any biological material. And then there's this other requirement that says, if it can reasonably point the finger of guilt at the defendant or exculpate the defendant, reasonably clear that it's going to do something. And so here's the example from the Bar Journal. It said, if you have a case where there's a sexual assault, a rape, and there's a lone assailant, and there's not any evidence that there would be DNA from another person, like an encounter with a boyfriend or a spouse earlier in the day or something. That's just absolutely clear that, we found a hair that's never been tested. We found a stain that's never been tested. And then they gave the other extreme example that a sexual assault occurred in a public restroom and they found a pubic hair. You're going to say, no, you don't. That's not going to prove anything.
Scooby, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
No, I'm not talking. I'm really frustrated. I'm trying to get the camera to work.
Oh, okay.
I might just
showed your picture like you're talking.
I know. I might just leave because I'm really mad because this is a brand new computer and it should have a perfectly working camera. And
you just probably have to go into control panel.
I did. I went into control panel and I did all the settings and everything is on. So now I'm very frustrated.
Test it out in an app. Like you should have some sort of like built-in selfie app there on your computer.
Yeah.
And see if it actually
it seems like the camera isn't working at all.
Travis, are you back or?
Yeah, I'm here. So
okay, so I was gonna say, with the, like, okay, we have all of the bones, right?
Yep.
But we have like a bunch that were allegedly unidentifiable as human or animal. Would those have been passed off to the Hallbach family, or are those supposed to be kept?
My reading of the statute is, unless you know for sure, you got to keep it. But this other person seems to be confused about that. But the Bard Journal article wasn't confused. The only question that the Bard Journal had was they didn't list specific remedies in the statute. What happens if you violate it?
Yeah.
I mean, the Bard Journal, Travis, says that you can't give them to the family if they don't know they're humans?
Well, they never say that. They say evidence,
biological evidence.
Biological evidence that can reasonably inculpate or exculpate a defendant should be kept.
Yeah,
and
well,
then she was saying, well, reasonably, the way I read it, it's only evidence of Teresa's biological matter, and the statute doesn't say that. It says that in subsection 2, the victim's material, but subsection 3 says any biological material. Then I asked her the question in the chat. I was like, well, nobody cares about the preserving the victim's DNA. I mean, you put it in there to make it a comprehensive statute, but the victim's DNA never exonerates anybody. It's the DNA of the real perpetrator.
Yeah, usually in the legal cases. But the problem here with this, it looks to me from that video that what they gave her was, what they gave the Hallbachs was material that Kratz said during the trial was not human DNA. And well, first of all, I have real issue. I didn't have little respect for Dr. Leisenberg, as I call her. She's a state shill, and forensic anthropology is as much of an art as a science, and her track record is not that good. Do you know about her other case that year? The one with the fetal bones?
No, but it doesn't matter. The state's experts are always shills, and that's why you need a good expert on the other side and a good way of presenting it.
But it matters because it was bad, and unfortunately the defense, I think, unfortunately the club of forensic anthropologists is very small, and I don't think Fairgrave did a very good job because he did not call her out at all. I mean, her exam was crappy. First of all, I'm a have a background in molecular, or one of my backgrounds in molecular biology, so I know the DNA. I wasn't a bone expert, but I sort of did a lot of research, and anything that you read says that, first of all, bones that are burned that badly, you can't tell just by looking at them whether or not they're human or not. You have to do microscopic evaluation and or histology. And Eisenberg didn't do any of that on anything. So while she claimed that the pelvis during the trial, she said the pelvic fragment, which was probably one of the biggest components available, which that doctor from Marquette University, which is a reputable university, thought was human. And Bennett, I believe him, and they got rid of him real quickly. You never heard from him again. So, and a pelvis is very, well, it was a pelvic fragment, but that's very distinct. So that probably is human. But
and it was a large fragment, wasn't it?
Well, it was larger than the other ones. I think it was one of the more larger.
So,
it would have probably been more likely to actually have contained DNA super rich in it because it was less damaged.
Right. And so
I think the statute says
during the trial, well, I don't really, I'm talking, I'm focused. I guess my purpose, I guess, here and with what I've been doing with this case is just to get at the truth. So I don't really care about statutes. I just care about like what's
well, if you want to get to the truth, you got to satisfy these statutes, unfortunately. Otherwise, they can rule. Well, not maybe. If they rule.
Well, let me talk to you about the reality.
Well, no, you got to have an understanding of this first. So they could rule you didn't have to keep the bones. Too bad, so sad. And then that's the legal reality. And so
maybe the legal system needs to change, but let me just try to.
But what did you think about Zellner's experts? Zellner's affidavits of her forensic anthropologist. He mentioned, a lot of the things you were just critical of. I'd be real curious what you thought about the experts that Zellner got. What you thought about what they had to say. They were very critical of Eisenberg.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she didn't do but what I just wanted to finish saying was that Leisenberg's statement during the trial was that she could not say that the pelvic bone was human or not because it was in such bad shape. Well, I would say that it was in at least no worse, if not better shape than the other stuff that she said was human. So first of all, that's a problem. Now, in my opinion, Fairgrave should have, called her out on all of this stuff. I think the defense just got ripped off. And, it's like there's only like 1,000 forensic anthropologists in the whole world, and they're all in the same club. And none of them are going to, really, go out against each other. So, but the bottom line is she didn't do.
Zellner's has no qualms or hesitation about going after her.
Covering your mic again.
He ripped her a new one.
Yeah.
Said it was below standards.
Yeah. Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So
he didn't have any hesitation.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So the big problem here is you honestly can't say that whether or not, especially since no DNA was obtained, whether or not any of this material is Teresa Halbach, let alone human or not. I mean, and if you look at the wording, it's all supposed.
Yeah, which is why the statute.
They can
possible. Possible is the word.
Or possible, supposed, whatever. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like they can't say, without to a reasonable scientific certainty, whatever. You can't by just looking at those fragments. It's not as clear as people think. So it really hasn't been. And then Travis, isn't this kind of like again? I'm no legal scholar, obviously, but isn't this? So it frustrates me. I know, and I'm sorry, it frustrates me that the legal systems, there's all these technicalities, whereas in science, we just care about getting to the truth. So who cares? But I understand. So that's very frustrating. However, if the jury was not informed about these other burn piles, then isn't that like withholding evidence? Isn't that a Brady issue? Then, or is it that not because it wasn't withheld from the attorneys? Did the defense know about those other burn piles?
It was all listed by GPS coordinate,
and therefore handed over in discovery.
Okay, so therefore, technically, then that's not a Brady violation.
But the way Zellner's argued it is that Eisenberg knew that there were 3 piles.
Yeah.
That's imputed to Kratz. And when Kratz told this theory about one burn pile and that I'm not even going to spend 20 seconds on it because
right.
You can't you
In that
you
pile,
can't
they give something to the hall box.
right, and you can't take anything from that. So I'm not even going to spend 20 seconds on it. And but it was a weird thing that happened at trial on cross-examination of Leisenberg. The defense got her to say that those pelvic bones, that pile, which is all they really talked about, was probably human. And then the defense expert on cross-examination, Kratz or whoever, I don't know who was doing it, Fallon or Gahn or Kratz, but
it was DNA. It was probably gone.
They pinned him down. Well, it was bones. They pinned her down. They pinned the defense expert down a little bit better and asked a more precise question. You can't say whether those bones are human or not, can you? And he said, no, I can't. And so he's probably being honest. He's probably going, these things, and it's probably what Eisenberg should have testified to about a lot of the bones. But, you know, there's the problem is that these experts get paid so much money. And there's this ego thing. We saw this in the staircase with Peterson.
Yeah.
And what's the name of that expert that, you know, totally disgraced? And
Deaver.
I mean, Deaver came in with blood spatter and said, "Oh no, this couldn't happen from a fall. This was clearly a beating with a blunt or sharp instrument, and so on and so forth." And it turns out, you know, they have at least 34 cases where he manipulated and lied, and then look what happens to him. He gets fired, not prosecuted, nothing. It's unbelievable. But
yeah,
you know, you got human ego involved that which I think they exposed with Culhane pretty well.
yeah.
But you know, they the folks that work for the state, they're under tremendous pressure, and then the trial experts, they make so much money, and they know that this is close, but if I don't come up with something that's going to help the state, I'm not going to get hired anymore.
Well, right. You know? And that's the problem with the current legal system and the science, is that, you know, that often these quote unquote experts that are used, they're career testifiers. They work for the prosecution or for the state. And well, in 2009, again, I come from the science world, and only since I started becoming interested in this case did I learn about the forensics world, which I attach science to loosely. And so there's always that bias that you bring up. And I'm sorry, Travis, I know you don't know me, but I get a little passionate sometimes. Plus, I just learned about these other two bone piles since you guys made your video. And I just think, I mean, it's kind of like what you said, this case, you know, I became interested in this because of the DNA, because of my background, and I just started looking into it. And when I started seeing all the problems and all of the bad stuff that went on, and contaminated samples being allowed, and stuff that should never ever happen, I was appalled. And I thought, you know, and then I learned this goes on all the time. This is in our country. It's a real problem.
Isn't that scary? Yeah.
In 2009, the American Academy of Sciences, you know, made this big report. You may have heard of this, about the FBI and how much of their science is junk, like all of this bite mark analysis, all the pattern analysis. and all, it's voodoo basically. And they proposed that there needs to be glaring reform in the forensics world, and that the crime labs should be completely removed from law enforcement and the state and should be independent entities. Because right now, basically, the crime labs and all of these, experts are working for the state. And so the poor defendants, usually who have a public defender, they don't even see their DNA results. And it's just, anyway, that's what they proposed. Of course, nothing's happened with that since 2009. And Jeff Sessions took that out of the budget. Decided there wasn't even a need.
No, it didn't go as far as what they recommended, but I'll tell you, for example, in the West Memphis 3, that report led to the reversal and exoneration of numerous cases because of bite mark. It put, completely revamped that, and
it didn't change. I guess it didn't change the way the system is still working overall, I guess is what I meant. But yes, it did bring up about how some of those types of evidence are basically worthless.
Have you had a chance to look at this testing by the guy from UCLA, that
the quick DNA testing?
Quick DNA testing. Have you had a chance to look at that and what he's done? Is he
inspect the science?
Is he using algorithms to fill in the blanks, and he's got a highly accurate algorithm?
I don't know. I haven't had time to get familiar with his. To look into exactly what is.
That's your first assignment. That's your first assignment, yes. Scooby.
Because I just as I said, I guess you kind of missed my little intro last night, but I was very involved in this and started looking into the DNA right after MAM1 came out. So what is that, almost 3 years ago now?
Yeah, 3 years.
And did a lot of research, and I was really obsessed, and then I kind of left. So I'm just getting at literally the first I heard about this was yesterday or the day before when I watched your video, which had been done before. So I haven't had time to do a lot of research into it, but obviously it's the and you're right. And what is scary and not scary is that this DNA testing, it's moving so much into it, and you bring that up, and that's a whole nother can of worms. That they're going more and more to, like you said, using algorithms and predictive testing, and not even actually, looking at what's there. And I don't even know if they're doing STR testing or if it's mitochondrial DNA testing. I don't have any idea. And the quick part, now he did develop that quick test, like I think you might have talked about this, because the forensics world is very interested in this quick DNA testing, because now they're going to have, which scares me a little bit, because now they're going to have the police officer be able to, test your DNA.
Oh, I don't think that should be
right on the spot. Which no, I don't think it's
that's fraught with problems. I see.
Yeah.
It needs to be a separate entity. It's bad enough being a separate entity, but at least it's better than. Oh my God, no.
Yeah, I'm with you, Eric. So I've been, this whole quick DNA thing has made me very nervous. So,
but this DNA testing, the quick that. I haven't looked at the act yet, but it's a little bit different than DNA testing where they receive a swab. And
I'm not sure how
it's different because it's limited to a buccal swab is going to be collected right at the station. It's only testing suspects, people who have been arrested. right then and there. I still don't know, if the protocols are going to be accurate or sufficient, and I don't know who has to collect it. But, right now, depends state to state. What state are you in, Scooby?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin, all I know is what they did in this case, and they took the suspects, Stephen, Brendan, Mr. Avery, Mrs. Avery. They took them down to a hospital, and a nurse collected did the buccal swabs. But I believe in most states, an evidence tech can collect it from a suspect.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Makes
so
sense.
and Houston Police Department's one of the places that has one of these machines or devices, or I don't know what it is, if it's just a computer program where they can run stuff and get a result back in 2 hours.
Right.
But I did want to say that it's different than getting a blind sample. Presumably they're going to have the correct buccal swabs. They're going to collect a proper sample, and they're going to walk it over straight to the whatever apparatus or instrument they have, which is completely different than somebody getting a swab in a lab. And the safeguards you have to implement in order to to avoid a contaminated sample. But what did you think about when you?
I'm just not sure. I'm sorry.
When you first looked at how big a deal is this 7 Loki thing?
Oh my goodness! Don't get me started. How long do you want to talk? Okay. First of all, that never should have been. That should have been not allowed. So do you know the? I don't know how far back you want to go. The history of that. Now the state knew. Okay. There should have been.
I'm familiar with all the details of it. I'm just wondering. I know.
Who wants to get your take on it?
You're seven Loki, and it only is 1 billion compared to 1 in 50 billion is what you'd have.
And I don't even know if that is accurate or means anything. But so here's the thing that you have to look at when you're talking, and people will debate this and understand what's happened. What's happened in the legal system is that, of course, the technology has advanced much further before the law was able to catch up with it. And when you say partial profile, that has classically meant you have maybe one loci missing, or one, not more than half of your genetic material. Okay. That test should have been called inconclusive or incomplete. That was not a partial profile. And the state knew that initially. And I know they knew that. And because it was not enough to assign, how can they say that? To attribute source to. They could not attribute, if you look at the DNA reports, the wording is a little bit different with that. They could not attribute, that to a source. So for instance, if you look at some of the blood, although she did go on because for the court she had to supply statistics, she could just say this blood sample was consistent with being, consistent with the profile of Stephen Avery or whatever. Well, that's called, attributing a source. She couldn't do that with the incomplete test that she had. Now, that was the reason that they went on. There was a hearing on December 5th, which was why, and Sherry had done her test just before that. Well, at that time and in that report from December 5th, did I say the 12th? I meant December 5th, 2005. There was a preliminary hearing. Now, they were very smart in that they used the word the partial profile, but they did not provide the actual data. And the defense did not think to ask. They just assumed. So the defense did not know how crappy that profile was. However, they knew that that would not be good enough for an ID, which was why they sent it on to the FBI for the mitochondrial DNA testing. Because if seven loci, were good enough and, 1 in a billion chance, they would have just been okay with that. But they knew. So if you look at the DNA reports, the data is not published. It just says partial profile. And then there's some other wording that's there's a lot of, for an important case, there's a lot of errors in the lab reports, or maybe errors, or I don't know if they're errors.
How many are you up to, Travis?
86 fundamental errors, major errors.
Yeah. So because you don't know if they're errors or if they're like they didn't proofread. For instance, it says the partial profile of the tissue is consistent with the partial profile of the pap smear. So now people were there, and there was a lot of discussion about this on Reddit. So does that mean they didn't even get a full profile of the pap smear that was used as their standard? Because your standard should be a full profile. And then if you research into the use of pap smears, they don't always produce full profiles. So was there ever is that an error? Is that a typo? Did they have a full profile of the standard? Did they not? We don't know.
Well, that's you say. We don't know if that's an error or not, because
exactly
we do know later on from the backup material that the pap smear gave them 15 out of 15.
Later on, right? Yes.
Later on, we knew that, but she should have never. Now I understand how significant that is. She never should have used the term with respect to Teresa and the pap smear DNA. She should have never used the term partial profile.
Yeah, but you don't know. But when she said that at the time, so you don't know if that was an error or if maybe she didn't get a full profile right then, because the pap smear was taken out again in March. Out of evidence, it was, and I don't know if she was retesting it. Anyway, so let me just explain. I guess you asked about the 7 loci. So there's also a quality thing. So these tests are meant, as you know, there's the little primers that are like the little targets that go in at the loci and attack their mark. And if your sample is good, they should hit at each of the loci and you should get results at each of them. Well, sometimes there could be a problem with 1 or 2, but it's also a quality of an issue. So a lot of most scientists will say, and again, what's happened in the forensic or crime lab world is that they've stretched and stretched and stretched the limits of what's acceptable. So, a pure scientist would say that if your sample is so bad that you're only getting, it's degraded to the point where you're only getting results at such few loci, you can't even trust that those results are accurate, because I don't know how familiar you are with the STR testing and what all is involved, but there is some subjectivity to reading those reports. You get a graph that's printed out, and it's hard to, if someday maybe I can do a little tutorial and show this. It would be much easier to explain. But one issue is that, and this is why most people would call that report, a scientist would call that report inconclusive, because it's not only the fact that that you didn't get results. It's the fact that the sample is obviously so bad that you can't necessarily trust the results that you did get. And you would have to look at what we call the raw data, the graphs, and see what the printouts look like and see how strong those results are. So that's a big
at the preliminary hearing you just mentioned in December of 2005, the defense attorney, Lloyd, he touched on it a little bit. And he was talking about, so you had a hit here, and then you had a double hit here. And they were talking about the 2 extra loci that their computer package had, but that weren't at the time required by the FBI. Those were the extra 2. They talked about it, but we can get you all of the raw data from this particular case. Oh yeah, it's all available.
It is?
Oh yeah.
I'd love to see it.
They discussed it in the trial. It didn't make it out of the editing room into making a murderer, but it's all in the transcript.
Oh, I didn't know that it was available, because I know people got the records, but maybe it wasn't.
I saw it at some point. I saw the little peaks you're talking about that are similar to spectrograph or spectrometry, and you see
the electroencephalogram it's called,
and so and so you could get false peaks, you could get noise in there, and a bunch of stuff.
And when they show, like when you do like a buccal swab, where it's a fresh biological sample, nice new cells, and the material's all perfect, you're going to get one of those nice graphs like they show in pictures. But the reality is that in most crime scene evidence, it's degraded, it's old. And so your graphs, your readouts are not as clear. And sometimes there's like double peaks or peaks. There's a threshold that the peaks are supposed to meet. And sometimes they might be like sort of on the border, or, it's not always clear cut. And they've done a couple of interesting studies now that show, there always is experimenter bias. And this is the other thing that, of course, the American Academy of Sciences recommends for crime labs, is that they need blind testing. Because right now, you've got somebody working on the tests who has an agenda. And whether it's overt or not, someone like Sherry Culhane, for instance, her job is to please the prosecution, and to work for the prosecution. And everybody wants to do a good job, and so if you have a peak that's on the borderline, you're going to, be inclined to say, oh, that's positive. And they've actually studied this, and they've given a sample that was, kind of nebulous, that could be considered, yes, this matches the suspect. No, this doesn't match the suspect, or it's inconclusive. And they've changed the story. Like in one case, the profile belongs to a guy who's really sleazy and scummy and, a bad person. Well, the DNA analysts, they always find in favor of that being a match or positive or what they want. And then they've taken the same exact data and presented this.
So it's confirmation bias.
Exactly. Coming from a person who, she's a nun, and she was on her way to church and she just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, they find those peaks, not good enough. So she's ruled out. So they've shown, clearly now that you can manipulate, it's not even necessarily conscious, So even without any kind of, nefarious activity going on, people will tend to, things can be interpreted in a way, that, so there is that to go along with. So if your job is to find Stephen Avery guilty, which I clearly think it was in this case. I mean,
well, we have that phone call from Gasbender to
then
Culhane saying, hey, we what was it, Eric?
Find him in the garage.
We need to find him in the garage.
Yeah, put her in the garage.
Put him in the garage.
Or the trailer or the garage, actually.
Yeah. So I mean, if that's your job, even if she isn't consciously thinking that, you're going to be inclined to do what you're told. So there's that issue too. But what happened with that? So that on itself would not have stood as a very strong ID. What really was a strong ID was the mitochondrial DNA, which of course didn't make it into the trial. But I don't. And actually, I'm very impressed, Travis, and I love people like you because it helps me a lot because you really know all the legal shenanigans. Eric, you look bored to death. Anyway.
I look bored to death? No, I was doing something. I'm good.
Anyway.
No, everybody's fascinated by what you guys are talking about. I'm also monitoring the chat. So.
Oh, but what? And I don't know how much of this was.
Sorry, by the way, Scooby, everybody's loving it. I mean, everybody's loving what you're talking about. So, I mean.
I don't know how much of this was intentional or if it just kind of worked out. It did work out, and Kratz definitely used it to his advantage. But when the FBI results did come out, which was now in January, so we're talking, December was when the preliminary hearing was, and obviously the state knew that those results, at least we're going to need some backup, which is why they sent that to the FBI for the mitochondrial DNA testing, which, by the way, they use mitochondrial DNA because it's present often in cases like this where there's, especially in burn
tissue, right?
The mitochondrial DNA, there's a lot more of it because there's thousands of copies of it per cell.
Right.
And in bone, and again, I can go on, and I don't know why the tissue was used, but I'll just leave that out for now. Anyway, so in burn cases, they almost, at least back then, nowadays they've gotten much better with their STR, which is what Sherry used, analysis. But back then, they almost always used mitochondrial DNA for burn cases because it's just, for many reasons, it's much more, it holds up better, and there's just tons more of it. So you're much more likely to get a sample. So anyway, when those results came out, Sheriff Pagel, I guess, I don't know who received the report, but Sheriff Pagel, the report was dated January 17th, and they've taken it off of the internet, and I wish I would have downloaded a copy because there was a big press conference, and Sheriff Pagel on January 19th held, it was the big news in Green Bay, and it said, remains confirmed. That was the headline, as TH, which of course, even, scientists are never going to say that. The mitochondrial DNA report said that, Teresa Halbach could not be excluded, which it's the wording that's used. First of all, and someday when you guys are ready for it, we can explain a little bit about the difference between the mitochondrial DNA, but the language of the mitochondrial DNA testing is completely different than the STR. There's none of the 1 in a billion. There's not loci. They actually sequence parts of the genome. So the language of that testing is either a person is excluded or not excluded. Right. So to be not excluded kind of means it's a positive test. Now, this case is very interesting because of all the legal ramifications. Normally, it's usually like a missing persons case where your son was a soldier in Vietnam at a certain time. And if it matches the family member, people just assume it's usually a pretty good test. So that test on paper, they would never say that it confirmed, but it certainly at least. But again, the issue is I don't know what was tested or where it came from. But on paper, that was a good test.
Right.
And it did show that the results were consistent or consistent that Teresa Halbach could be, but certainly not confirmed. However, what they did, Sheriff Pagel used language, and so the press used language where they kind of intertwined Sherry Culhane's language from her report with the language from the mitochondrial DNA report of the FBI. So they said the FBI confirmed that the remains belonged to Teresa and that there was a 1 in a billion chance. Well, that wasn't from the FBI. That was from Sherry's results. And then they talked about the state crime lab. And then they had Mike Halbach come on in a very emotional state. Now, and this is all preying on emotion. And Mike Halbach come on and very emotionally thank the state for identifying his sister, even though they knew all along it was her. And
well, you know what Sean Atwood says, right? Court case is basically two sides putting on theater, putting on a show. And
right.
Whoever has the most money puts on the best show and wins.
Yeah. Well, so you see what happened here, though. It's very interesting. I mean, it's fascinating. And again, I don't know if it was but what they did was they mixed up, and the average person does not know the difference between the FBI and the state crime lab and mitochondrial.
Oh Christ! They can't even tell the difference between the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department and the Manitowoc Police Department.
Right.
And, I know.
So this was so now she was ID'd. So at this point, it didn't matter what Sherry Culhane put up on that PowerPoint, as far as I was concerned. At this point, at that press conference was when the ID was made. And it's just another example of how much of this case was tried in the media. Because they mixed up, they mixed, it was all jumbled and it was unclear now. And that was, if you know about that email that Ken Kratz wrote to Sherry, where he said, I can send you a copy of that if you're not familiar with it. But later on, after that, Ken Kratz wrote an email to Sherry, and he said something about, I don't remember the exact wording, so I'm just going to kind of paraphrase here, but something about like, well, it's too bad that the public got the perception that the the ID or that the FBI results came from us, he said, but something like it's not our fault.
He allowed the FBI said something, and Ken Kratz basically went along with it and ran with.
Exactly. That's the point. Yeah. He was like, but it's not our fault. So perceptions will be what they are. I can't do anything about it. And so, like I said, they used the fact that the FBI, which was mtDNA test, which really was what confirmed the identity.
Right.
They let people believe that was Sherry's test, that those results were that was strong. So that when at the trial, so then the mtDNA wasn't allowed at the trial, but people were so convinced anyway that was her that, like I said, it didn't really matter at that point, I don't think.
Right.
And then when Sherry threw her statistics, and the other thing, and people will debate this, but there are people who say that, okay, the statistics, which are all done, as I'm sure you know, Travis, by software packages. So that, those testing kits and the equipment, they all come with their own software packages, and it spits out, the 1 in a trillion, 1 in a whatever. The statistics are done for their software the statistics are based on tests that are completed. So there's two schools of thought. One school says that, so you can't just go and extrapolate the statistics onto a test that isn't an experiment, if you will, that wasn't completed.
Right.
But that the statistics then are no longer valid. But then there are, of course, the crime lab or forensics people say, no, that's true. They're just independent results. And you can do them. But I honestly don't know how she got a 1 in a billion. No one's ever seen the math. I mean, she used 1 in a billion for a couple things. So I honestly don't know really, but it really doesn't matter. She could have said 1 in a million, 1 in a billion, 1 in a whatever, and they would have been convinced that those belong to
1 in a gajillion.
So
I don't know. You're sorry. You reminded me of Austin Powers when you were saying that. There's that one scene where the president makes fun of Dr. Evil, and he's like, "Oh, are you going to ask for a gajillion?" Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. But anyways, yes, Culhane. I agree with you about Culhane being unreliable. I mean, her own record at the lab, I think, illustrates that, because she's like, she makes at the lab, or at least at that time, she had the highest rate for like mistakes or that type of stuff, if I remember correctly.
But and Travis, I mean, I don't. Of course, they're very careful with their wording, so maybe she didn't technically lie, but they knew they were misleading people. How can I say it in that? Although on the other hand, she came out and said, because whoever was doing the cross-examination did bring up the point about how she could not, her data was not strong enough that she couldn't, I don't know if they use the word source attribution, but that she could not, say that this, was, however, then there was this 1 in a billion thing, which sounds very impressive. So that was good enough for the jury. But, and it gets, I guess what I'm saying is, was that sample likely belonging to Teresa Halbach? Well, I would say yes, but based on the mitochondrial DNA results, if indeed those were valid. But then I also I just have a lot of questions, and maybe someone that are unanswered. Then the other big question I have is why, if they had a beautiful non-burned bone, or non-burned appearing bone, according to Dr. Leisenberg, which she testified to, that would be the prime source of material that a mitochondrial DNA lab would use. So why wouldn't they use that bone? Why would they use, because mitochondrial DNA is it's like bacterial DNA, so it's very prone to contamination. And they're actually sequencing, which is why they do it in specialty labs and why it takes so long, because they actually sequence the DNA. It's a much more sophisticated test. And so they actually bleach the outside of the bone or UV irradiate it to get rid of contamination. That's how careful that they have to be. So why they would use this grisly old tissue that's been laying out on the ground, exposed to bacteria and vermin and Lord knows what, when they had a beautiful bone. It doesn't make that. Leisenberg said she sent to the FBI, but they have no record of receiving a bone. All they have is Q1, which is a piece of charred remains or tissue. Yeah. And I've never known a mitochondrial. Now, maybe that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just don't know of a mitochondrial DNA lab to ever use tissue instead of bone. They always use bone. And anyway, so those are just questions I have, I mean, about what was done and why it was done and where's the bone and why wasn't the bone used? And I don't know.
I think we're going to have a lot to talk about when you look into this quick DNA testing stuff, and you can kind of give us the straight dope on it. And then how you think it pertains to these bone piles and some of your, original research.
But, what I found when I started looking into this is a lot more questions than answers. Like I said,
hopefully Zellner's going to help alleviate that problem.
Yeah. So like I said, because a lot of people ask me, about the test, and I said, yeah, on paper, the mitochondrial DNA, it's a good ID. However, then you look at, well, what was actually tested and where did it come from? So just because that was a good idea on paper, I don't know.
From what I understand, it's the charred flesh on the shin bone.
Well, right. I know that's what they said.
That's what they say, right? Yeah.
That's what they say. But then there's the other issue. How did this charred one piece survive?
Right.
When everything else was burned to smithereens.
That's why Stacy Seabrook says, leave one piece out for identification.
Well, that's kind of this is just, and I kind of stay away from theorizing about, like, I have no idea. Because I've been really focused on the DNA, so I don't know, many people know more about other aspects than I do, but I guess the theory that makes the most sense to me is one that I think Zellner has proposed or is sort of implied, is that the body was dismembered first.
Right.
And then burned, and that maybe one piece was left intentionally out for an ID. So anyway, but if this DNA testing is allowed and works, I think it would be fabulous. One of three things will happen. Either it won't work because, these bones now are all very old too, which will be a factor, but
right.
And I do need to, Travis, learn more about this actual test because I haven't even had time to do that.
Let me ask you another question that other people have discovered, and only you are going to be able to explain this. So,
well, maybe not. I don't know.
Well,
no pressure.
I could tell you're going to be.
No pressure.
I could tell you're going to be able to explain it. So, on page 420 of Queso, and Adrian brought this out in her notes. So this is February 18th.
Okay.
They go out and interview Teresa's mom, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Liger, and along with
yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Along with Dumberling.
Mm-hmm.
And upon arrival, we were invited into the residence. I asked Karen if she had any other deceased children. Karen stated, other than Teresa, she does not have any other deceased children. Karen also told us that her mother, Dorothy, is still alive. However, she is in poor health. Karen also stated she does not have any nieces that are deceased, and she only has one aunt who would be deceased, who is buried in Schofield, Wisconsin. Karen turned over pictures of Teresa and her family and friends for this investigation. So this came up. People were saying, why on earth would these investigators go out to this bereaved mother to ask her if she has any other deceased children, and then start asking about other female relatives? And my supposition at the time was, we need to talk to somebody who knows about DNA to figure out there's got to be something that has to do with that, they're trying to get something. So, this is obviously after. Any idea why they would be trying to track down deceased
Yeah.
relatives?
Because well, first of all, the female thing is because they don't understand completely the mitochondrial DNA inheritance pattern. But the reason they're asking about the relatives, especially some females, is because they're trying to, I would say, sort of be proactive into making sure that there's no issues the defense could bring up as far as the bones perhaps belonging to somebody else, because mitochondrial DNA is, as they say, it's not specific to a person. It will trace you to a family or to a lineage, but it is not it will not identify you personally. So it will show that you are related to somebody maternally, and it's maternally inherited. Your mitochondrial DNA is inherited. So your mother, so this is where they got a little mixed up. Well, they did say children with the females. So mitochondrial DNA, as opposed to your nuclear DNA, which you get from your mother and your father, and then it's recombined and stuff. Your mitochondrial genome is passed on from mother to children. So all of Karen Hallbach's children, male and female children, will have the same mitochondrial DNA profile as Teresa and as Karen. Karen's mother.
I don't mean to interrupt, but so why aren't they asking who's alive, who's dead? Those who are alive, including her mother, Teresa's maternal grandmother, why aren't they asking, oh, she's alive? Well, do you know if she would be willing to provide a sample? Why are they asking if they're dead?
I suppose because theoretically someone could have dug up their bones and used them.
But do they need to do that if grandma's alive?
Well, I think that's why they were asking if she was alive, right?
They're asking if she's dead.
Well, no, they started with, according to their report, and they're not great at report writing, but according to the report, the first question they asked was, do you have any other deceased children? No, only Teresa. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then she said, my mom's still alive. And then they asked, you know, do you have any nieces that are deceased?
Right. They're hunting around. They're hunting for information to see if there are any potential people that could be sources of bones, I guess, that could
is the FBI capable of detecting, like a geneticist would? Do they have sophisticated enough testing that they can identify a disease, a congenital disease, the marker for that, and that they're you know, that they saw some.
Are they that sophisticated?
Oh, no, but that's as far as mitochondrial disease, no. And in fact, that's a good question. And just a kind of sort of FYI, that's how I got interested in this area, because I have two nephews and a niece who do have a mitochondrial genetic disease. And after they're now in their 20s, and they still have not found a specific marker. So actually, in fact, that was how they started actually examining, well, just like with a lot of things, the mitochondrial genome, because of diseases. But there are very few known markers, even for, frank diseases. So that would be, no, you wouldn't be able to, but they would have the same, any maternal relative would have the same mitochondrial DNA profile. Now here's another.
They're descended from the same mother. If they're all descended from.
Well, a maternal relative. So let me show you.
Maternal lineage,
and
right.
This might be something that I can show you on a piece of paper, because it's sometimes seeing things visually is easier. So okay, so we're going to go back. So there's like grandma. You have a grandma, okay? Mm-hmm. All of your grandmother's siblings, because they came from the same mother,
her, right,
have the same mitochondrial DNA. So all of now some of them are male and some of them are female.
Right.
This was where Liger got a little, I didn't understand completely, because he was only asking about female relatives. Well, some of the appropriate male relatives would have the same profile. I think they were just kind of digging. I can only think that he was digging around to see if there might be any other dead bodies that the defense could say, Oh, so that maybe that's not Teresa. That's
let me ask it another way. Do you think that Gasbender and Dumberling were asking these questions more about a possible motive or possible suspects, or do you think it's more likely that they were asking these questions in relation to some type of testing that had been done or could be done?
I don't think there would have been any testing done because this is not something that anybody would ordinarily do. I think they were trying to, I think, of course, I can't know what they were thinking, but I have to think that they were trying to make sure that there couldn't be any other explanation for this profile being found in a bone. That the only person the bone would be Teresa. Because it could theoretically belong to any other maternal relative, which would mean, you know, any of Karen's siblings' children, so nieces, nephews, and then when you go way, way back in the family, and then this brings up another issue. In that area, see, the FBI database for mitochondrial DNA is very small. There's only like 1,000 or 1,500, 1,700 or something samples in it. And that's nationally. Now, the thing, when you look at, now think about maternal inheritance. So, you know, if you go out to California, like LA, where people, you know, there's a lot of migration, you know, people from all over the world, as opposed to a place like Manitowoc, where most of the people that live there have lived there their entire lives. They tend to marry there, have their children there, and so
they're all related. I mean,
right? Yeah, well, yeah,
they're all related to people in Calumet County or Calumet County. They're related to the people in Manitowoc. They don't go too far.
So
everybody's third cousins.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're and this study has not been done. So you have to wonder how many people living in that area have the same or very similar mitochondrial DNA profiles, because maybe going way, way, way back, you know, there's some relationship. It's you know, this is just sort of anecdotal but I always show this as an example, and not to that even if you look at the STR profiles, if you look at them blindly, you know, and by the time you get the STR, those are the nuclear DNA profiles. If I looked at Brendan Dassey, the Dassey boys, and Alan Avery, who's their grandfather, and Teresa Halbach's profile, Teresa Halbach has more alleles in common with Alan Avery than either of his genetic grandsons. Now, you know, what does that say? You know, not a lot. But anyway, it's just kind of interesting. And this is a very small sample because these are the only profiles I've seen from that area. But it makes you wonder. But the point is that even, you know, there's a lot of common alleles. So now then, when you go to that 7 loci partial profile, you know, it does kind of make you think, you know.
Right.
That not a lot of studies, you know, all of these profiles, you know, are pretty new, you know, just since the 90s they've been doing this. So it really hasn't been, you know, we really, even though the FBI claims, of course, that they know a lot, you know, they really don't know a lot about the inheritance patterns of a lot of this. Or is that, you know, it makes sense to me that it would be different in a very confined geographical area like this, like a place like Manitowoc. You're going to see, I would think, you know, much more common alleles than when you're comparing someone against a national database.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
So
there's just going to be less of a pool of alleles to really,
right,
because it's not as diverse as, say, LA or Chicago or New York or Atlanta. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
No,
right. Because
lack of diversity means less options.
Right. And so the statistics, so for instance, so these statistics like that Sherry used, those are based on, the database. And I actually only found this out very recently when I was researching into the database, because again, I'm not from the forensics world, but I don't know how many millions of profiles they now have in the STR database, but the statistics, the last time the statistics were done, they were only based on 200 profiles. So, obviously you have to think they're obviously not looking at a billion profiles and doing actual statistics. I mean, it's all, theoretical statistics.
Right.
But they're not even looking at, as more and more information is coming in, they're not changing. The statistics aren't even based on all of the information they have. They're just picking out a portion of it. So that's not necessarily, doesn't seem very accurate to me. But anyway, I'm not a statistician, but I mean, I know the basics, but I can, there is a lot of controversy about the statistics too.
Yeah.
But again, if you talk to, which is why you have to be, I'm always look at, when I read a journal article or an article about any of this, I'm always cognizant of the source, because, if it comes from like a forensics journal or a statistics type journal, they'll always be very supportive of the statistics. And but then there's other people who are more critical. So again, it's a lot of things to think about and question. And I guess if this was it's complicated because there's so many, this will be someday, I think, a great law school case, because there's so many. This was like a simple missing persons case without all the legal issues and complications because of the wrongful conviction. Then you'd probably say, well, this, the mitochondrial DNA looked good, and then there was this, doesn't really matter about the STR profile. Yeah, that's Teresa. Right. It's just, but there's all these other factors involved that make you think. And that's why mitochondrial DNA, while it doesn't identify a person specifically, you kind of look at it in the context of the situation. And usually within the context of the situation, everything is good enough that you're able to say this is a positive, say I feel good about this being a positive ID. And in fact, who's been really, who really are like the best and the forerunners in the mitochondrial DNA testing is the military. This is one time when I'll be very pro-military. Their lab, because they started doing this with missing soldiers. And they also do blind testing, because even again, you want to help a family out. You want to think you found the person's remains, so you're likely going to want to think tests are positive. So they do all their testing blind, and of course they've done a lot of this, and so they've identified, they find remains of soldiers in Vietnam where there's just and so they're able to link them back to the families. And now that the STR, or the nuclear DNA testing, which is able to identify an individual, now has gotten a little more sophisticated, so they're able to use it sometimes on these samples that in the past could only be done with mitochondrial DNA. I believe in all of the cases tested, the STR has confirmed the mitochondrial DNA results, that they were positive.
Oh, that's interesting. Let me tell you something real quick. When we get this stuff to you about, this is from Selden's affidavit, which was attached, and it's going to be Exhibit 3. But so this is what he said. The Andy program, that's capital A, capital N, capital D, capital E. Erekose and I just pronouncing that Andy.
Sounds good to me.
The results of the program was the development of an automated rapid human DNA identification capability that minimizes analytical complexity, which analytical complexity is what you were talking about earlier, which is interpretation, and user manipulations for field-forward biometric and forensic applications. So that's a nice way of saying it was developed for the DoD to identify casualties of war. That's what field-forward biometric and forensic applications mean.
Yeah.
So it means that, you know, if somebody gets, I really don't want to put it in those terms. You know, there's a lot of atrocities with war, and sometimes there's not a lot to identify a person with.
Right.
They would be able to bring what they had to a field hospital or whatever that had one of these instruments. But, you know, I wanted you to be aware that that's how this thing got started, was the DoD. And then it went to Homeland Security, started using it. But the other thing I wanted you to just be aware of when you review it, I know you need to look the whole thing over, is that they talk about his system uses 27 locus, including the 20 locus that the FBI uses for the CODIS system. And I just thought it was interesting that the CODIS system uses, you know, 20 individual loci, I guess, that you can enter. But his system uses beyond that. I didn't realize the FBI had expanded CODIS that we could enter up to 20 different loci.
Yeah, they just did that recently.
Okay,
last year.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought. Yeah, but so when you look at that, those are just a couple of things maybe to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and the newer.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go
no,
ahead.
You didn't. I don't know what it's. But the newer tests, yeah, they're coming out with, you know, they're adding more loci to be tested, which also, you know, makes you also think, well, you know, if 12 were good or 15 were good, well then, you know, why are we doing more? Obviously, because, you know, otherwise you would just stop, because obviously you're going to increase the accuracy, but you kind of also have to think the reason you do more is because, you know, maybe you I'm getting tired. Maybe you know what I'm saying. You'd only want to keep improving your test if you thought, well, maybe it wasn't perfect to begin with. So not that they're not bad, but
or you just know that to get accepted, there's a lot of skeptics out there.
So maybe somebody would match up to 12 or 13 loci, but now beyond that, so that would be considered a match. But then when you go further out, well, now maybe they wouldn't match for all 27. So then they're, you know, rejected. So you know what I mean? Now you're getting, you know.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So,
you know, because
so obviously, I don't. I think the statistics are theoretical, but nobody really knows. I don't think nobody really knows in practice how, and especially when you're, how, obviously, I don't want to sound like I'm being negative about the DNA testing, because obviously it is. The tests are good. The tests themselves are very good. But the problems that I see are happening are how the results are being used and manipulated sometimes. How can I say, by the legal system to mean sometimes what they don't mean, or to sort of, I don't know, stretch the meaning of what they mean, or to now, go further and further out, like, well, how good is, okay, 7 in the state of Wisconsin now, 7 out of 16, is good enough, so now you may say, okay, that I'm comfortable with identifying a body, with that, but am I comfortable for, accusing someone of murder if they're a suspect, and I'm matching them to crime scene evidence, and they only match with that many loci? Am I going to be okay with putting someone away with a result like that? I don't know.
Well, here's a distinction you need to be aware of. So they're using, with regard to the bone, they're using that to prove a couple of things. They're using it to prove that Teresa's most likely dead, because if you're missing this piece of your body, you're probably not going to, that's probably a lethal wound if you're missing that area of your body. It's not like a pinky finger with nothing else with it. And so they're using that with, the supposed location of the car and electronics that they supposedly trace back to her. So they're using it with other circumstantial evidence to show that Teresa's dead, which is a lot different than, let's say, for example, a mixture case where they've got, hey, we've got your DNA mixed with the blood of Teresa Halbach. And then in that situation, it's like, well, you better be able to really nail that down, that is, a positive, solid match, because instead of trying to establish that someone's deceased, you're now trying, it's more akin to the DNA on the bullet, for example, which is trying to tie the defendant to the crime versus, she's deceased, which is why it makes it so important that the 3 piles of the other bones be tested, and why that should have come into evidence, that, should have been talked about, these 2 other piles, and so on and so forth, all the things you mentioned earlier. But, and the other point is that it's a two-way street on the statistical problems that there may be with DNA testing, and whatever shortcomings there are on the use of it. Keep in mind that, and I'm sure you're aware, well over 200 people have been released from prison, and including death row, with the same testing and whatever its shortcomings are. I understand what you're saying, that,
Oh, absolutely. But I think when I see that, the system, the country needs to be careful, because I think the next wave that we're going to see are people who are wrongfully convicted with DNA results. And that I think it's being, in my opinion, sometimes, not always, but sometimes misused, or more liberties are taken in in an attempt to get convictions, sometimes it's easy to bend the rules of science. For instance, in this case, allowing a contaminated sample. Well, that's no big deal, they say. But, to anybody who knows science, it is a big deal. And how far do you go just to get a conviction that you I don't think it becomes a slippery slope when you do things like that. You just, there have to be, those rules are, and I'm not even a real rule but someone who doesn't really like a lot of rules, but those rules, and that rule, especially for contamination, was put into place because it's so important. And I know a lot of people poo-poo that, and that attorney Gone in that Making a Murderer movie really, that was really bad.
Well,
what he did.
That's a function of the trial judge, supposed to be the gatekeeper on this
Right.
stuff. And in MAM2, there's a part where Kathleen Zellner is talking about, hey, this forensics is what wins these cases. Forensics. The stuff doesn't lie. Forensics doesn't lie. And, it's either going to be the final nail in Stephen's coffin, or, it's going to lead us to the real killer. And, she keeps repeating that over and over. It's in her briefs and everything. Yeah. But at some point, she said, this is getting political. I'll never forget it when I heard it for the first time. And so when a lawyer says that, the judge is supposed to be a gatekeeper, but that's the problem. We've had this swing for years and years and years. People run on law and order. If I'm elected governor, I'm going to appoint tough judges who are going to hand down tough sentences. And, they've run on that. And then, the governors that's leaving your great state said, during his term, that I will never grant clemency or a pardon to anybody. I don't care.
Thank goodness he's gone.
Well, not yet. He's got another couple of weeks. Who knows what he can do between now and then? But
Oopsie. Oh, we lost Travis.
Did Travis drop out? Uh-oh. Let's see. T1's asking, let me see. T1 had a question. Maybe you might have a thought about this. What other items does KZ plan on testing besides bones? Can this rapid DNA testing be utilized in other ways? But that's what we're talking about. You still haven't looked into this rapid DNA testing, right? You still have to kind of look at it and get the grips with it,
looked into it, on a surface level, and it could be used for anything, blood, semen, the basic. It's approved right now. As far as the FBI, it's approved for use with buccal swabs.
Yeah.
To be put into the database.
Yeah,
but
for CODIS and everything, yeah.
For CODIS, but it can be used, basically the test could be used on any type of sample. Okay. And I think that's mentioned in the motion, that it's been used with blood, kidney, liver, a whole bunch of tissues.
Okay.
Anything, basically any cell.
Okay. Well, then we're everybody's eager to hear you look into it deeper and give us a kind of an explanation of it all and better understanding. So,
well, it's a lot. It's a lot. It is a lot, especially, and it's something I think that, you know, you kind of learn over time, because it's a lot for, you know, just one night. So nobody should feel
yeah. No.
overwhelmed or too much. But I just wanted to finish on one of
Everybody's
Travis's
what you're saying. So go ahead.
points, even though he's not here. I can't remember what. Oh, he was talking about. Oh, and again, this is me getting on my soapbox a little bit, so I guess which may be relevant. But I think, but actually, I do think this actually has become, you know, since I sort of started this journey myself, which really was just out of my own personal interest in wanting to understand the evidence in this case,
Right.
Which led to me learning about, you know, how the legal system works and how the DNA analysis is used. And I think that there is a need for a lot. And so I think it is important that people, I guess, understand or are aware, because I think it's important. You know, we all say, well, we're never gonna need to worry about it and whatnot. But you know, I don't know that we can ever say that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some of us, I think that there's a scientist that I really respect who says everybody who lives in the United States now should have a basic understanding of this DNA business that's being used by the law. Because I don't know if people realize, but the Supreme Court, for instance, I think it was last year or the year before. Everybody who lives in the United States now should have a basic understanding of this DNA business.
Mute your YouTube tab, buddy.
There I am. Because now, you know, just being arrested for anything, you can have a swab taken and your biological material taken. That doesn't mean they're always going to do it, but because, you know, the lawyers aren't going to explain it to you, the judges aren't going to explain it to you. And again, as the science, you know, the American Association of Scientists have said, the problem in the legal system now is that you have people who do not, and this is not meaning to
they
be
only care about the science that can help them.
Well, it doesn't mean to be insulting, because it's not that they're not intelligent, it's just that they don't have the background. Decisions about this evidence is being made by people who don't understand it.
Right.
You know, for instance, judges, you know, like that judge, you know, and that's a huge problem in the system. And so then, and the legal system works on precedents, you know. So, I mean, even though I understand what Travis was saying about how the death, you know, in that case, the 7 loci were used just to make sure a body was dead. However, there's a precedent set now in the state of Wisconsin that 7, you know, that a partial profile is less than half. And so who's to say that some other lawyer isn't going to argue in a case when it is being used to try to match a suspect to a piece of evidence?
Right.
Well, in Avery versus the state of Wisconsin, 7 loci was considered an acceptable. Right. Acceptable means to be a positive ID. Right. So therefore my person can be guilty. So that's, you know, that's what I see happens in the legal system. And right. And yet, like I said, the average attorney and judges and all this don't really understand. And so what the scientists would like to do is take more control over what's happening. And I think that's a good thing.
I'm going to send you my video about CIFS. Have you heard of that? I know you like to follow Jerry Buting. Do you know about CIFS?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you.
I was saying, I know you like to follow Jerry Buting. Have you heard of CIFS? It's a nonprofit organization him and Dean started. It's basically.
No, you know,
stands for the Center for the Integrity of Forensic Sciences.
Yeah, well, Jerry Buting, you know, and I did not know this because, of course, I only met him after, you know, all this, you know, MAM and everything. And of course, we live, you know, we live in the same city. So, But yes, he has been involved in forensics reform, and especially in trying to whip that state lab into shape for a long time. I mean, well before the Avery case. So that's a personal passion of his. So, and no, I didn't know about that, and I haven't. Like I said, I sort of did walk away. But Eric, I blame you. You've got me reobsessed.
Oh well, I'm blame me all day for that. Then I'm glad to be blamed for that. Right on.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing you. You know.
I know. I'm glad to be blamed for that.
But,
I'll take that blame.
I really have. I really decided I was, well, I, have gotten busy, and I just decided, I'm just going to leave this. So, but no, that sounds interesting. I'll have to look into that.
This
yeah,
is
if you can explain it for us, that'd be great.
But I know that he's very passionate about the reform in the forensics world and DNA, and that's great. I'm
passionate about that too. It seems, I'll tell you what it seems to me, Scooby, it's doing is I would love to see CIFS pop up in every single state like Innocence Projects, and where they become like the center for where all the litigators in that state look to whether or not science is good, bad, on the fringe, and then that way when they go into court they can argue that, and they already know because there's a center repository where they can go and find out about these things. I think it will help inform the legal system as a whole better. I'm behind it. I want to see it catch on. Will it? I don't know. I'm trying to get Jerry on the channel to talk about it.
Oh, that'd be great.
But I'm trying, doing what I can. Not getting an answer yet. So hopefully, if I continue to just pound CIFS, maybe we'll get him on here to talk about it.
Well, maybe I'll talk to him too.
I know he likes you, so maybe that'll help.
Yeah, we'll work on him.
Okay, right on. But yes, I absolutely think it's stellar. I mean, the CIFS is a stellar idea, and I think it's right along the lines of what you're talking about.
Because it's so complicated, and it's going to get so complicated. And like I said, it's not, an insult to anybody. It's just like, I don't know very little about the law, just because it's not my background. It's not my, area. And, so I wouldn't be going about advising lawyers on how to do their, job. And it's just, there needs to be so that's great. A better way, but that's okay. We can move toward a better way.
Yeah, I think definitely so. T1 is asking, has Scooby read Jerry's filing back in 2008 against the credibility of the DOJ crime lab? Wondering whatever came of that. Do you recall that at all, about something about Jerry's filing in 2008 about the credibility of the DOJ crime lab?
Oh yeah, I don't know that I read the entire thing, but I know he's been very concerned about the credibility of that crime lab in the state of Wisconsin, and I am too, because I live in this state. So I do have a personal interest in some of this stuff, because it is a little about scary, and I don't know what's become of it. They've had some change up of personnel and stuff, but actually I'm a little scared because, as Travis mentioned, our fine governor, who is tough on crime, has not. One of the big problems in these crime labs is that they just, and again, this brings a whole nother issue, but people like Sherry Culhane, they're basically technicians. They sit at their desk and they do these tests, which are basically, and I don't want to demean them, but they're basically it's like cooking, you put some of this, some of this, some of this, and they put it in the machine, and they're doing, thousands, I don't know how many a week, but day in and day out, it's like rote work. So they're way behind. They've got so much work to do. And now Governor Walker what did he do? So it used to be they did process DNA samples on, well, first it was just convicted felons. Then it was anybody arrested for a felony. Well, now it's anybody arrested, not even convicted, but arrested for a misdemeanor, i.e. shoplifting. You're going to get put into the DNA database. So now I don't even know what the number was. So he's like 40,000 or something. They were expecting like 40,000 more samples that need to be processed this year. So now, you got this lab that's not doing too well. I don't know, has some problems.
Yeah.
And now you're dumping a huge, I won't use the word, S-load of work upon it. Well, the last I've heard is that they are farming out some of the samples to Texas. So they're sending out, which
That's
again,
scary. That's
exactly.
Scary.
Yeah, because now you've got mail and things going through the mail, and it just seems like it's like a machine. The more cogs there are in a machine, the more places there are that there can be malfunction.
Right.
So this doesn't necessarily seem like a good thing to me. So I'm. And lack of transparency is a huge problem with, again, coming from the medical science world, what goes, I guess that's the other thing that really floored me about how you don't know what goes on in these places. There's no transparency, and that's a problem too.
Yeah.
That really shocked me. I mean,
check this out. This is going to be great when you review these transcripts, and I'm going to help you with this. We'll figure out how to get in touch. But because
you have a lot of information.
Annotate this. But you mentioned blind tests earlier. This is Culhane during the trial on cross-examination by Jerry Buting. Okay, listen to this. All right, let's talk about the testing process just a little bit first. Then we'll get into it in more detail. The jury, I think, needs to understand that the tests you do in your lab, or anyone does in your lab, are not what we would call double-blind tests. Answer, could you define what you mean by that? Question, or even blind test. You never heard that term? I've heard the term before. I'm not exactly sure how you are using the term. If you could define that for me.
Sherry said that?
Yeah.
She didn't know what a blind test meant?
Yeah, she said, could you define it for me? And then
gosh.
Jerry switched it to, okay, well, let's talk about a proficiency test, okay? And, he tries to simplify it for her. But I saw earlier where her testimony was based on, the FBI data set and so you'll be able to go through all of this, but the pap smear, she said, was 1 in 50 quadrillion that it was Teresa Hallbach, which I didn't even know it went that high, but she talks about all the markers that she saw. She had 16 out of 16 loci from the pap smear, and so eventually we'll be able to get all of this to you, and it'll be fascinating to see what you're able to tell us about all that.
Yep, we'll be having Scooby back on real soon. Now that she's brave enough to come on here,
Yeah, well, if I can get my camera, hopefully I'll get my camera to work.
We'd love to see Scooby in real life too. So
yeah, I know. I really did try, but then I
know you did.
I gave up because I was missing out on the conversation, so exactly. I was getting interested. But now it's driving me crazy.
And everybody loves you, Scooby. Everybody loves you.
I will work on it.
No, don't worry. When you go back and watch this, you're going to see everybody in the comment section loves you. So look into the Quick DNA. They want to hear your take on it. They already know they want to hear your take on it. So I mean, they love you. So
well, it's great to have I love to talk about it because
I know you do.
I mean, like I said, I don't have a lot of answers, but I have a lot of questions, and I think you should question things. People should question things, and that's
yeah, absolutely. But people respect that you actually have knowledge about this, and so your opinions even though you don't feel like you have facts, but they respect your opinions. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and I try to make it clear when I'm, stating my opinion versus just
that makes you a friend of the channel. So
facts.
Yeah.
But it's the more I thought
and a friend of the wrecking crew. Sorry, go ahead.
Of course, I'm a friend of the channel. I've always been a friend of the channel.
Yeah, but now you get the illustrious honor of me saying it on video.
Now I'm officially. See, well, now you got me on. Finally, you got me on a video. You've been working on this for a long time.
Yeah, I know, and everybody loves you. So now you got to come back and tell us about quick DNA testing. So we got you now. We got you.
I love to talk about nerdy science. So anytime I can find anyone to listen to, I'll be happy. And thank you, Travis. It's really helpful to have your
legal expertise.
Legal expertise to go along with it, because I've just been pretty much very focused on the science part in this case, and so which I think is the beauty of having a community, and you really need one, because fortunately, there's so many other people who have brought various documents and things to my attention, because, oh my gosh, that's one thing about this case, that it's like there's so many different reports, and sometimes I think I have something straight, and then someone will show me like a different, like a report made by somebody else that'll say something different. I mean, the documentation is like a nightmare.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everything is not all in one place. And so for one person to, especially for me, I get real bored reading a lot of these transcripts and stuff. So, which I've read the basic ones, but that's been really helpful, to have. So anyway,
the science is critically important to Kathleen Zellner, the forensic science. And so
it's a forensics case.
And so your ability to, some of the forensic sciences I'm, very familiar with, but others not so much. And being able to, rather than just take Kathleen's word for it, it's just going to be nice having somebody, like you, to be able to come in and explain to us in lay terms, why this statement in a particular expert affidavit of hers is important, and
or valid,
or why is this significant, and her criticisms of Weisenberg, and that you'd be able to just the thing, for example, on what's the term? I can't even remember that you were talking about. A partial match, and then how significant that is, and then that Culhane in her report makes another error, and I haven't seen that. I've got to go back and look at it, but she describes the pap smear as a partial match, and this stuff is highly significant, and why it's significant. Yeah, that's going to be great.
Right.
Yeah, well, how bad is Culhane at her job? Jeez.
Well, it's significant, and this is in a report for, a first-degree murder case. I mean, you think you would, it's not Bio 101, so you would think you would at least proofread and make sure that your reports are clear.
Right.
And so it leaves people wondering, was this a miswording, or did she only have part of the profile? You're sort of guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at some point we can also talk about, the accrediting authorities. And, that's another systemic problem. All of these crime laboratories are pretty much all accredited by one accrediting agency, and they're trying to make it scientific, and they've come a long way in that, and they're changing things and whatnot, but it's the Association of crime lab directors, Ask Lab / whatever, but all of our labs are accredited by them in Texas, all of Wisconsin labs, and talk about being in the club. when you've the National Academy of Sciences or the NIH should be accrediting these folks and doing proficiency testing. And I mean, when you said they were sending tests to Texas, I mean, we've had cases where there was a lab down in Houston where a supervisor was caught helping lab techs, friends of hers, pass proficiency tests on DNA.
Yeah, you guys have had a lot of problems down there.
Oh,
Houston, like, shut down and then, like, have to reopen.
Yeah, so you're aware of all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so these people they get caught, and
yeah, so
they
we're sending our
resign.
tests to Texas.
and then the next thing you know, they pop up. Oh, they're working at the DPS lab in Austin. Well, that's the thing. They don't get. They just keep, circling around. That if we put 2 or 3 of them in prison, like the guy from the guy in Talia who manipulated all of the drug tests and put, pretty much every African American person in jail, arrested every African American in this tiny town up in the Panhandle. Well, that guy had been chased out of Virginia, and he ends up in Texas. And
nothing happens to these people. Maybe they fire them, but no.
No, you gotta put a couple of them in prison and have that.
Or lose their license. I don't think they're licensed. Well, and that's another issue I have. So someone like Sherry Culhane, and again, it's not meant to be a personal insult, but these people working in these crime labs, they're basically technicians. You don't necessarily have to understand what you're doing to be able to do these tests day in and day out. It's very rote.
They want a degree in biology or chemistry, but
a degree in biology.
But what they pay.
Sherry Culhane had, in many years ago, before mitochondrial DNA was probably even discovered. Anyway, so the point is, but she is considered an expert. She was the expert witness.
T1 said she's terrible.
Not to be insulting, but your average master's degree student will know more about the tests that she's doing that she doesn't necessarily know about the science behind the testing. And when you said that she didn't know what blind testing meant, I mean, that says it all. So what the legal system considers an expert and what is an expert are two different things.
T1 says her hairspray contamination alone should have.
Oh man!
All right. Well, I think maybe we can call it in quite a while. I think everybody might be getting a little tired, and we can.
You can only take so much science in one dose,
right? And then we can let Stacy Seabrook take us out here for a couple.
I love this music. It is it's great.
Well, just before you do the outro, I want everyone to be, aware that we're with Scooby's and Shaggy's help, we're tracking down who this Cap'n Crunch guy is that sued you.
This Elizabeth, what was it?
Swallows, Betty Swallows.
Yes.
And
Elizabeth Swallows. Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna nail that down, and first we're gonna get the case dismissed in Wisconsin, and then we're gonna go after these conspirators in Scotland, track them down, and we're gonna sue all of them. So
I like the sound of that. Then we're gonna have a big party.
We will not abide this aggression. I guarantee you, especially from across the pond.
Yes,
But,
certainly.
if I don't talk to you guys, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
And,
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody out there in the chat and everything. I know there's only 13 of you, but
Well, it is pretty late, at least here where I live. It's
Yep.
12:48. I don't think I'm going Christmas shopping anymore.
Right on. So we'll let Stacy Seabrook take us out.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Travis. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, Mama and Papa Avery, I said this once for you, just letting you know the world can see what they have put you through. Not that we could ever fathom or try to imagine the depth of your pain. But the case was a sham, the trial was a scam. The DA is a legal stain. I said, Mama and Papa Avery, we stand with you. No matter what the state says, oh, their lies we see through, because the blood, it was a planet, the car was a planet, Sam William Henry 582. The bones, they were planted, the bullet, yeah, planted, the key in the bedroom too. I said, Mama and Papa Avery, we send our love to you, just letting you know we can see what they did and continue to do. Oh, Mama and Papa Avery, said this once for you, just letting you know the world can see what they have put you through.
All right, we're gonna go another one, folks, just so you know. 2 more, actually.
There's something going on. Your freedom is in danger. Agents of the state, they taking children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. They needed someone on Jody wouldn't flip. They looked around, saw him quick. Oh, it made so much sense why. Oh, Brendan Dassey, he was Stevens' alibi. There's something going on in Wisconsin that's not kosher. We better stop, let's all take a look closer. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid for Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. They visit him once, they visit him twice. They make him feel so safe. Sandwiches, soda, so nice. No cameras rolling and under no lights. Who knows what went on up in Fox Hill Monday night? There's something going on, and freedom is in danger. Everything about this can't get in stranger and stranger. All we know, they will sacrifice your kid. Oh, Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did.
Thank you, T.
March 1st, alone in a room with Bert and Ernie. No parent present,
and no attorney. 4 hours later, with a touch of the knee, they finally get Brendan to agree. There's something going on. I said there's something going on. Oh, we'll sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. There's something going on. I said freedom is in danger when the agents of the state are taking children from the manger. Oh, they will sacrifice your kid. Take Brendan Dassey, that's exactly what they did. Take Brendan Dassey, oh, that's exactly what they did. Let me tell you about a story. About a man go bound. About the law enforcement. The right bunch of clowns. How they wear their badge like a plastic crown. How they're sticking to a story of which they are now bound. It'll make you, they'll want you to go down. But over in Wisconsin, they're doubling down. See, they framed them once. Then they did it again. They did not count on filmmakers making MAM. They thought their lives were safe. All went by the ruse. They did not figure on 19 million views. It'll make you shake your head and probably frown. But over in Wisconsin, they're doubling down. I said they're double down. And the triple down. They're headed down a road they cannot turn around. They walk around like they'll be home free. Because they control all the evidence, all the local judges, and Fallon is the state's AG. But I got some news. It's as plain as day. It doesn't matter what the state or the council say. Because we got Kathleen. She's got him in her sights. She's a real life hero, turning wrongs to rights. No matter how hard that state's gavel pounds. Over in Wisconsin, they're coming down. I said no matter how hard that state's gavel pounds. Their house of cards isn't coming down. It'll make you shake your head and probably frown. Said over in Wisconsin, they're coming down. Over in Wisconsin, they're coming down. Alrighty, folks. I hope you guys liked it. Hope you had fun. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be making a clip of basically everything that Travis and Scooby were talking about in terms of DNA and legalities and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and capture all of that from this video and put it on my other channel because it's certainly worthy of being put there. That's absolutely certain. So I will be copying a fair portion of this to be put on Erekose on Making a Murderer. So just so everybody knows when you see it there. Anyways, it's been great. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. And we'll see you guys.